Okay, the webinar is now live and we are being recorded. And as of right now, we have about 4 attendees.
Yeah. Just turned 6:30, so let's give it another couple of minutes. I see that more people are joining. One more minute and we are going to start. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and start by thank you for joining this meeting. We are very excited, very thankful that you took the time to join us this evening, given the circumstances that we are under. This is the first of a series of projects that we have to improve safety and convenience of walkability in the downtown streets for seniors. Downtown area was selected first because of the concentration of senior housing in the downtown. There will be 4 intersections that are going to be studied and improved. Foothill and Hazel is one of them, A and Montgomery, B and Montgomery, and D and Watkins, if I'm not mistaken. Aya Khajui, our Associate Transportation Planner, and our consultant team are here to begin the 20-minute presentation. After that time, we'll be all here to take your comments and suggestions and answer any questions that you may have. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Aya to begin the presentation. Aya.
Thank you, Alex. Good evening, all. Thank you for joining the Safe Routes for Senior Program's second community meeting. My name is Dr. Aya Khajui. Today we'll present the recommended modification for the selected intersection by Safe Routes for Senior program. The purpose of the program is to improve the pedestrian environment and encourage senior citizens to walk more. Walking is a key element in quality of life for the seniors. The simple act of walking can help improve seniors' physical and mental well-being. At the end of the presentation, there will be a question and answer session. You can press the raise hand button and type your question about the program and the proposed modification. For those who could not attend the meeting, there is an online survey available on the city's website and will be available by Friday, March 19. Next, please. Tonight, we will present the Safe Routes for Senior program goal, objectives, and strategies. We're going to talk about the program background, what we've heard so far from the community, existing consent trays, recommended modification for the selected intersection. We're going to show the design renderings, next steps for the program at the end, and we will have the question and answer section. Next, please. The primary goal of the Safe Roads for Senior program is to improve pedestrian safety so seniors can benefit from the safe and walkable neighborhoods. To improve public health, economic, and environmental protection. It will make the intersection more safe, vibrant, and accessible to improve pedestrian safety and remove the existing physical barrier and challenges of the senior. Next, please. The project is in downtown Hayward. The downtown area was chosen because it has the highest concentration of the senior facilities in the city. There are 23 senior facilities in the downtown area with a half-mile radius of the project limit. 8 adult residential facilities, 3 adult day program, and 12 resident elderly care houses. Downtown has experienced high pedestrian collision from 2015 to 2019, and 17% of the pedestrian victims, unfortunately, were seniors. The program will impact thousands of the seniors who will live in half-mile radius of a downtown area. Many more seniors who visit the downtown for entertainment or catch-up purposes will also benefit from the proposed improvements. Next, please. City staff, with the help of local senior housing facilities and senior centers, engage in 2 outreach meetings to gather the viewpoints of the seniors on their mobility needs on July 2nd and July 27th of 2019. The purpose of this meeting was to identify obstacles for walking, encourage walking as a transportation option, and develop a design solution to improve walkability and safety for the senior residents. Next, please. The results from the community outreach shows the most important obstacles of walking for the senior in downtown Hayward are difficulty to cross intersections, speeding at the downtown streets, AD accessibility ramps, safety issues, and lack of enough pedestrian signals. Next, please. After analyzing results from the community meetings, site observation, and collecting the collision data, staff narrowed down the scope for 4 signalized and 1 unsignalized intersection. The selected 4 intersections are B Street and Montgomery Avenue, Hazel Avenue, City Center Drive and Foothill Boulevard, D Street and Watkins Avenue, A Street and Montgomery Avenue. Now I want to ask Steve Weinberger from Blvd Traffic Injury Consultants, who works with the city, to walk us through the recommended modification for these 4 selected intersections.
Okay, thank you, Aya. Again, my name is Steve Weinberger. I'm a senior principal with W-Trans, and I have with me tonight Barry Bergman and Steve Fitzsimons. Barry and I will be doing the presentation. I'm going to turn it over to Barry, and then I will finish with the renderings of these designs. So Barry, go ahead.
Thanks, Steve. Next, please. So as Aya was saying, the text in purple is what we're really focusing on here. So redesigning intersections in the downtown area with an emphasis on increasing pedestrian safety, specifically focusing on the needs of seniors with the intent of encouraging people to walk more. Next, please. So one of the things that we should keep in mind is that speed is a really important factor in thinking about pedestrian safety. And as this slide illustrates, it's much more difficult for drivers to keep their attention on things on the side when they're going at faster speed. So pedestrian safety can be challenging in that situation. Next, please. So while we are focusing on pedestrian safety, there are potentially some trade-offs at some of these locations with what we'll be talking about. So it's something I would encourage you to keep in mind. So while we're looking at reducing injuries, reducing the severity of injuries, and creating greater comfort for pedestrians in the environment overall, there may be some impacts to drivers in that they'll have to reduce their speeds. There may be increased delay at certain intersections, which could lead to increased travel times. So that's some of the choices that we have to make. Next, please. So just to illustrate a couple of the issues that Aya touched on earlier, and then I'm going to walk you through the specific locations that we've been focusing on. Long crossing distances, single curb ramps. So this at an intersection where we have crosswalks on both sides, but sometimes pedestrians have to go, if they're using the ramp, have to go out into traffic in order to get access to the crosswalk. Next, please. Left turning vehicle conflict. So this is a situation where a vehicle will have a green light while the pedestrian has a walk signal. So while vehicles are supposed to yield to pedestrians, there are potential conflicts. Next, please. Similarly with right turning vehicles where vehicles have a green and pedestrians have a walk sign. And so there is the potential for conflict. Next, please. So now we're going to take a look at the 4 intersection locations that are part of the study. This is Foothill Boulevard at City Center Drive and Hazel Avenue. The key issues, they're by number. Number 1, very long crossing distances, you can see. Number 2, we have turn lanes that are pretty lightly utilized, so there's the potential to shorten the crosswalks. Here, there are no left turn conflicts with pedestrians. Next intersection is Montgomery Avenue and A Street. And so here we have a skewed crosswalk at the top of the screen. So that makes it harder for pedestrians to see oncoming traffic. It also makes for a longer crossing than if it was just straight across. At this intersection, there's very little vehicle delay. And there are left turn conflicts with pedestrians. So when vehicles have a green light, it could be at the same time as when pedestrians have a walk signal. At Montgomery Avenue and B Street, here we have 2 skewed intersections. So again, harder for pedestrians to see oncoming traffic, and it makes for longer crossings. And then at the bottom of your screen, you can see at the entrance to the Bart station where buses pull in, what can be kind of confusing is that the other side of the median is also one way in the same direction. So it's not very intuitive. At Watkins and D Street, next, please. So here you can see we have, again, a skewed crossing at the bottom of the screen there. And then if you look at the left side of the screen, there are 2 through lanes. There's a left turn lane, but as you get to the right side of the screen, it becomes 3 lanes. So that's kind of an invitation for drivers to speed up. And there are left turn conflicts with pedestrians where vehicles have the green and pedestrians have the walk signal. So now I'm going to turn it back over to Steve Weinberger, and he's going to walk through some of the details of what is being proposed at this time.
Thanks, Barry. Our recommendations for the intersections fall into several categories. You'll see them here: pedestrian accessibility, signal operations, and timing, and geometric changes and striping. And a number of these things result in changes to the traffic signal equipment, which we'll be discussing. First of all, let me cover pedestrian accessibility. This is C in Watkins, near our study area and the post office. Before, there used to be a single ramp. Barry touched on this. It was improved with the bi-directional ramp, so pedestrians can walk directly into their path of travel crosswalk rather than the middle of the intersection. This is a concept we're applying to every corner at our intersections. Also, as mentioned, we want to separate conflicts of pedestrians with left turning traffic. So any approach that does not have protected left turns now we'll be adding. As well, we'll be proposing to add the message sign that you see for no right turn on red. So when there's a red vehicle signal and pedestrians are crossing, vehicles will get this and be asked not to turn right during the red where pedestrians might be traveling. Also, we're proposing the addition of a signal phasing called a lead pedestrian interval. If you look up on the signal, basically it's a head start for pedestrians. Pedestrians will get their green walking man signal, and vehicles are still asked to stop red. They will then get their movement. Basically, it gives drivers awareness of pedestrians in the crosswalk. They already have initiated their walk. And also, in terms of signal timing, we'll be looking at the amount of time given to cross. So we'll be making sure that there's adequate crossing time, especially for seniors and those with mobility challenges. In terms of the geometric changes, we'll be addressing a number of items, including skewed intersections, trying to increase the visibility of pedestrians. Barry touched on those low volume right turn lanes, which is an opportunity to shorten crossing distance, and we'll show you how that works. All these changes work towards reducing that vehicle speed where pedestrians are concerned and increasing that safety. Did want to mention at Foothill and Hazel City Center, we'll also be showing you an idea for a median refuge island, shown here, and curb extensions on the side, intended to give pedestrians a refuge as well as to shorten the crossing distance that they're experiencing. All right, let's go through the design renderings of our 4 intersections. First, we'll cover Foothill, City Center, Hazel. You've seen this image before. This is our proposed design. I think it'll be easier to see these in a 3D fashion, so I'm going to move forward and show you that. First, we'll start you out with a drone view of the actual intersection. This is Foothill looking to the north. And here's the simulation. This will form the basis of how we'll show you the existing conditions and the proposed improvements. So here we are, Foothill City Center looking north. And if you focus in on these right turn lanes that Barry mentioned and these medians, which are fairly narrow and are not structured for pedestrian refuge. So as I go to the proposed improvements, if you keep an eye on these areas, this is our proposed design for Foothill City Center. You'll see these features, which I'll describe to you in order of the numbers. First of all, number 1, as mentioned, we are including the bi-directional ramps on every corner, so pedestrians get their direct path of travel. 2, you'll see the right turn lane is no longer there. The right turn movement is now combined with the through lane. It's a low volume movement, but it also gives us now the advantage of shortening that long distance, crossing distance. 3, on both sides of the intersection, you'll see a larger pedestrian refuge. We're able to squeeze that out and still get 3 through lanes of traffic in both directions. I'll cover that in more detail in a second. 4, again, bi-directional ramps, as well as 5, same thing. And number 6, there was a right turn lane in that location, again, that we've combined with the through lane to shorten that crossing distance. And going across to 7, you'll see the bi-directional ramps as well. Moving on to a view looking west. So we're above City Center looking towards Hazel. And here's the simulation of that view. And here's our design. I'm gonna zoom in on our pedestrian refuge where you can get a better view from this angle. Here's a zoom of that. You'll see that the design includes a seating area for folks that maybe don't want to walk across the entire length of the intersection in the time given. Some seating area, some landscaping. You'll see a pedestrian push button. If somebody wants to get another call to complete their walk, that's there as well. And it's got an entirely flat surface through the intersection, so there's no stepping up or down from curbs walking through this location. And again, as a reminder, these things I already discussed, this intersection, which already has protected left turn phasing, will get no right turn on red indications. We'll give that pedestrian head start, and we'll make sure that there's adequate time for seniors. All right, let's move on to our second location, Montgomery and A Street. This is our proposed design, but again, we'll look at this in a 3D view for better clarity. And here's a view of the intersection, and we're looking west on A Street. And here's a simulation of that view. Again, focus on this right turn lane. This is a lightly used right turn lane, and it also creates that wider crossing and that skewed intersection. So let's move on to the proposed design. So as you see, we've combined that right turn movement with a through lane. That allowed us to extend that curb out, shorten that crossing distance, provide some landscaping and some seating area for pedestrians, and also allowed us to create a perpendicular intersection. And there's number one, I just wanted to point out, we'll be adding signal equipment that will provide left turn, protected left turns in all directions. So this essentially gets all new left turn signal poles. You'll see in number two, we got the bi-directional ramps, that's at every corner. And then three, I discussed our extension, which helps us with that skewed crossing. And again, this intersection will get all these same features we discussed before. All right, let's move on to Montgomery and B Street near the BART station. Here's our existing view and our proposed design. Like the others, we'll move on to the 3D view. So here's a bird's eye view looking towards into the BART station. You'll see the AC Transit buses at the top of the screen. Here's a simulation of that view. And again, as Barry mentioned, the one-ways on both sides of the median in this area. So again, focus on this approach as I move to the proposed design. You'll see that it still would remain one way on both sides because AC Transit buses are only allowed on the right, passenger cars on the left, but we've provided a raised crossing at this location. Let's go through the other changes. Number one, the intersection will remain an always stop controlled intersection, which has some advantages for pedestrians. We're providing some arrow markings there just so people are aware where vehicles are turning. Number two is our raised crossing, which I discussed, which gives the queue, also slows traffic down as they cross into the BART station. You'll see on both sides, we have those dual ramps, and we've extended those curbs out to shorten that crossing distance. And we've made sure that all the buses will still have adequate turning radius to turn into the BART station. Number three, you'll see we've straightened out, actually on both sides of the intersection, the skewed crosswalks here. Number four, on the lower right, we've extended the bike lane, which now terminates 1 block west. We've brought it up to the Montgomery intersection as requested by Bart. And number five, just wanted to point out there is a Greyhound bus stop location. That's still there, just about 100 feet out of view towards the west. And let's move on to our last intersection, D and Watkins Street. Here's the proposed design. Here's our bird's eye view, and you see in the top center of the screen is Heritage Plaza Park. Let's go to our simulation. And as we move to the proposed design, keep an eye on this area. Barry mentioned this. It's where 2 lanes go now into 3 lanes through the intersection. So let's move to our proposed design, and I'll talk about these areas. So you'll see the dual ramps. That is actually, we're adding that at all 4 corners. We've added some seating near the entry to the Heritage Park Plaza. Number 2, that's our area that was 3 lanes. It's now 2 immediately through the intersection, but then opens to 3 as you get past the intersection. You'll see the 3rd lane in the upper right. We've also given the bicyclists some markings to help clarify those lanes through the intersection. Number 3, again, dual ramps. And we've pushed that curb out towards D Street to make that crossing shorter across D Street. Number 4, I'm circling the signal equipment. Again, this location in the north-south direction, we don't have protected lefts that potentially conflict with pedestrians. So we're adding the signal equipment for protected left turns. And again, the same signal improvements that I've discussed at the other signalized locations that will be advantageous for the pedestrian. So that completes the review of the designs. Let's talk about what's next. So that we're bringing the presentation to a close, and we're hoping to get some comments tonight and questions that we can answer and maybe get a few more ideas. In April, we'll go to the Council Infrastructure Committee. Following that, we'll be presenting this at the City Council. During the month of April, we'll modify and finalize these concept plans and finalize the report in May. We'll be doing construction plans for these improvements between the months of April and June of this year. And this summer, the project city plans will go to construction. Barry? You're on.
There we go. Sorry. Just going over the public input process. We have the workshop tonight. There's also a survey that is online on the city's website. So that'll be active through March 19th, a week from Friday. There will be a Spanish language version posted as well. So feel free to share that link with any groups you may be connected to, or through email or newsletters. And then, as Steve said, the city council meeting is coming up. And if you have any comments or questions and want to send those to city staff, this is the email to do that with. So now I guess we're going to open it up to questions.
Okay, everyone, if you have used Zoom before, please raise your hand using the raise hand function at the bottom of your Zoom screen. I also mentioned that we also have a Q&A portion where if you're not comfortable with speaking, you can actually type in your question and we'll answer it live now. So I'm gonna give you a few minutes before we start answering, but you see we have 3 questions and comments so far in the Q&A section. Did you want to start there?
Would you go ahead and read the first question, Michael?
Sure. So this is from an anonymous attendee. It says, I love the raised crossing at Montgomery Avenue and B Street. Can you keep the crossing the same color as the sidewalk? Can we keep the white striping to help signal cars that pedestrians have priority there?
Okay, I'll go ahead and respond. Yeah, I think those are some good ideas. We do have an urban design landscape architect firm on our team, and they'll be looking at things like colored concrete that we're adding. We will also be providing signage to both make pedestrians aware that it's one way on both sides, as well as some warning signs for vehicles of the pedestrian crossings there. I think the raised crossing will certainly help. I, in fact, have experienced that confusion crossing that intersection. So the slowing of traffic will do a great deal to make them aware of pedestrians there.
Great, thank you. Okay, the next question we have is from Michael Williams. What drove this process? I get that it's for seniors, but what was the key driver for initiating this project specifically for seniors?
So let me start by saying that there is an emphasis on making streets multimodal, meaning that not only for cars, but also for pedestrians and bicyclists. We've had projects and initiatives to improve walkability near certain areas to begin with. Initially, we started with areas near schools that was improving walkability near schools. And then it was expanded to walkability in areas that seniors, utilize more. When we improve walkability for seniors, we actually are improving walkability for everybody. A shorter crossing of, let's say, Foothill Boulevard, a less confusing crossing at A and Montgomery or B and Montgomery, they are good for everyone, but they are especially good for those who may have some mobility issues, and those are mostly seniors. So funding is available. We are implementing projects. We have started in the downtown, but the plan is to expand this program to other areas of town and basically improve walkability in all areas of the city. Thank you for the question.
The next question is from Carl Goringe. At Foothill and City Center, was there supposed to be a protected bike lane along Foothill in the future according to the bike master plan? Or am I remembering this wrong?
So I can answer that question. There's a proposed bike lane, the bike master plan, and we left enough space at the intersection for the future improvement. So we considered that in our design, and we left enough space on the shoulder for the future improvement to add a bike lane in that corridor. So we're not going to have any conflict with this project and the improvement we're proposing for this intersection. Thank you for the question, Carl.
I would just add that when we did phase 1 of Mission Boulevard improvement that included Foothill, adding a bike lane was not part of the project. It was overlooked. It wasn't included in it. The emphasis was on traffic improvement. When we did phase 2, which basically started at Industrial and went to the southern end of the city, we have a protected bike lane. Now we have completed the design for phase 3 that goes from A Street North to the end of the city boundaries at Rose, and there is a bike lane that is a cycle track that is going to be constructed there. We are going to concentrate on whatever we can do to improve bikeability in the center part 2 in phase 1, so to speak. The most immediate plan is to implement a bike lane for the section of the street leading to Industrial Parkway. And then the downtown area would be last, and we'll be working on solutions to the downtown in the near future. Appreciate the question.
Okay, it looks like we have two attendees who have raised their hands. Would you like to move to public comment?
Please do that.
Okay. Justina Victoriano, go ahead and unmute, and you could begin speaking.
Thank you. Hi, so I have two questions. One is about the signals. Will the signals just be audible tones, like locator tones, or is there going to be countdowns or words? I know especially in the D Street or like Watkins crosswalk that they were not always working, and I think that they were just countdown was visible but not audible. And then my second question is, will there be any tactile indicators in the crosswalks, or like reflector markers, something like that that's tactile throughout the crosswalks?
Great questions. And Steve, you want to take those?
Yes, yeah, and Steve, if you have anything to add, when I'm done, that'd be great. Those are all great ideas, and yes, I believe our plans will investigate and include all of those. Countdown signals have become fairly standard, so that would be included in the design. The The audible, that's something that we would discuss with the city to make sure it's consistent with the other facilities in the city in terms of audibility. One thing I noted from my field work is the volume, especially at Foothill with the noise of the traffic. We need to make sure that volume is loud enough to hear above the traffic, as well as those of us whose hearing isn't quite as good as it used to be. And as in terms of the tactile markings, all of those ramps, the crossings through the median on Foothill would all have the ADA standard tactile markings.
Steve, if I may add, I've been discussing with staff, you mentioned push button, which I understand, but I've been discussing with our staff the idea of implementing some touchless activators, so that without having to push a button, by just moving a hand in front of the receptor, you can indicate that a person wants to cross the intersection.
Okay, yeah, I think as part of the design. Steve, you have any, Steve Fitzsimons, any add-on comments to that? I think that's good to investigate during the.
No, that was pretty good. The buttons that talk to you have a feature where you set the volume variable, and it goes up and down depending on the level of traffic noise. You set it to be a certain number of decibels louder than the ambient noise, it's called. And that's something that the vendor has to come out and really help the city fine tune and get it right. But that's what we're anticipating to be part of the project.
Thank you. Michael, next speaker.
Tom, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Tom Ford. I'm a land use planner with an office in downtown Hayward on Main Street between A Street and B Street. Upstairs from the chamber in the brick building. This is a really great project. This is long overdue. This is great that you're doing this. I think that there's a couple of reactions, and one of the earlier questioners touched on this with Mr. Ameri. It's not going to just benefit seniors. This is going to benefit everyone. The same thing that a senior requires to have a refuge in the middle of a busy street in the median is going to be handy for somebody pushing a stroller and holding on to their 3-year-old at the same time. So these are very I understand this is a grant from a seniors program, but this is going to be beneficial to all age groups and all users. Secondly, I think these intersections were identified in the senior survey, but in looking at them, there's a sort of a series of case studies. There's different kinds of intersections. And I think Mr. Ameri touched on this earlier. When this project is over, you're going to be able to take these case studies to different parts of town and find a very similar situation that you can introduce these same kinds of improvements. So this is great. I mean, there's probably no other intersection like Montgomery and B Street, but most of those other intersections are a typology that works. I live in Fremont, so when I come to work, and I don't do it, I don't come very often the last year, but when I come up A Street, and this improvement to A in Montgomery is going to be vastly superior to what's there now. It's a great use of the space in the curb to curb and reusing it for what it's really necessary for. So kudos, let's implement it. It's going to be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael, next speaker.
Okay, Stephen Dunbar, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Hi,
Yes,
Stephen.
thank
Yes,
you.
we can.
Very good. Good evening. My name is Stephen Dunbar. I'm on the board of directors of Vikes Bay. Saying thank you for doing this important work. Dave couldn't be here tonight. He's busy with Richmond. I had a couple of, and I'm also a former Hayward resident, and I personally very appreciate the improvements slated for Watkins. I've actually been on my bike on Watkins and found myself staring at a pedestrian because of that weird jog that's there. So that'll help a lot. I think my comments are, mostly to Carl's point, just making sure that everything's compatible with protected bike lanes in the future. We don't want you to have to redo the work. We want to do it once. And then Perhaps bulb outs into the parking space on Watkins would be appropriate as well, perhaps. That's pretty much all I had. Thanks for all the great work.
Thank you, Stephen. Next
Yeah,
speaker.
let me just, okay.
I'm
I'll
sorry,
just-
go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, a couple of quick replies. In terms of the bike lanes, yeah, we've made sure that there's some flexibility, especially at Foothill, that there'd be room for bike lane facilities in the future should the city decide to pursue that. And in terms of the curb extensions, we are working with staff to balance the available funding for the project and the cost of doing the improvements and dealing with things like the crown of the road. I think it'd be, on the face of it, it's great to do more curb extensions and shadowing the parking. But in some cases, we get involved with some physical constraints of the roadway. And so we from a consultant standpoint are working to make sure this is within the city's budget and keeping an eye on that. But appreciate your comments. Thanks.
Michael, next speaker.
Okay, we had this person speak before. Would you like to have them go again?
Yeah, it's fine.
Because
It's fine.
okay. Okay, Justina Victoriano, if you'd like to go ahead.
Yes, thank you.
comment.
I forgot to say thank you. That's what I wanted to say when I was saying my question. This work is so important, and I just wanted to reiterate something another speaker said, in that, safety for seniors is really universal design, and that means for people with disabilities as well. And there's two different housing right on 808 A Street and EC Magnolia right within the same block of these places. And it's so inclusive, and it can be used by everyone and makes everything safer. And I just wanted to say thank you for this work.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go back to the question.
Go ahead.
The next one is, at Montgomery and A, similarly, is there supposed to be a bike lane along A Street in the future? Wouldn't the corner bulb out interfere with that?
Aya, you want to take that?
Yes, it's going to be the future, but there's going to be a future bike lane on the A Street, but right now there is no budget or plan for that, but we're going to consider that during our design to make sure there's not going to be any conflict. I'm going to have enough flexibility for any future bike lanes coming on the street.
And I'll just add to that, about designs, that location you just mentioned, there are ways that we can design these bulb outs so a bike lane doesn't have to go around them, but has a path of travel through them if that's what the city wants to do in pursuing the bike lane. So we're having our eye on that idea and that issue. Thanks.
Okay, the next question is, why was the south intersection at City Center and Foothill not inclined?
So we selected.
Oh, sorry, I believe it's, excuse me, not included. It's a typo. Excuse me.
So we selected those intersections based off the inputs we got from the last community meeting we had, and also based off the collision data we have. And the intersection at the Foothill and City Center and Hazel had some pedestrian accident and fatality that make it to be had a higher priority over the other intersection at the Foothill in the city boundary of this study. That was the reason we select this one, and also based off the inputs we received from the seniors. That intersection is close to a couple of the senior facilities we have, and that had a higher priority over than other intersection we had on Foothill Boulevard.
I would add to what Aya just mentioned, which is true, that this is a multi-year effort and multi-year program. We are going to look into other intersections in order of priority and include them just because an intersection has not been included this year, it does not mean that it is not going to be included in the next year's of the program.
Okay.
If you could
and
read the next question.
The next comment, it says, one immediate improvement I'd like to see is for the pedestrian crosswalk signal to show walk automatically along one-way roads, particularly along B Street, since a walker cannot see the green lights.
Those are really good ideas, and that's the reason we have this meeting today, to get these good ideas, and we're really going to consider that. We haven't decided what type of signals we're going to have, and we are here to hear all of these good ideas, and we're definitely going to consider those ideas in our design. Thank you.
Are there any questions or any
I
comments?
don't see anyone raising their hand, and we have answered all of the questions that were typed in.
Okay. To our consultants, do you have anything else to add at this point?
No, I don't think so. We're certainly moving forward on the project, and looking forward to presenting this to the City Infrastructure Committee next month.
Yes. This project came down to Public Works from the city manager's office. They were the ones that pursued the project and got funding for it. So I want to turn to Carol Lee with the city manager's office to see if Carol has any comments, or are we on the right track? Carol.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Ameri. I don't have anything to add. I think the design was very comprehensive, and I'm all for it. So I appreciate the feedback, and we will take everything into consideration.
Right. There is one, I think
we have one more
question.
input. It says an automatic pedestrian detection would be great.
Okay.
Thank you for the comment.
All right. If there are no other questions or comments, I just want to thank our staff and our consultant team for having done a very nice job of putting this presentation together and coming up with very good ideas for improving safety in the downtown area at these 4 intersections. Looking forward to working with you to develop the design and take it to the Council Infrastructure Committee for their review and comment, and ultimately to the City Council. I appreciate your work. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.